My name's Sean. I'm going to share a quick story with you about how to build a business blog from 0 to 1 million visits a month. But yeah, we'll get into it. So this is how you reach me. I Twitter or through my website. Keep it pretty simple. I'm pretty responsive on Twitter. Let's see here. So I have a kind of a strange background. I started off as an aerospace engineer, and I also ran an online skateboard shop about the same time. So I worked on the International Space Station and the Space Shuttle in the early 2000s. But I also ran this online skate shop, sold stuff around the world. Got really used to working on websites and marketing and all that stuff. Through all this, I actually met a person named Neil Patel, and I worked at his consulting company. He founded Kissmetrics and Crazy Egg, two analytics companies, and he brought me on board to work on the blog back in 2010. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Okay, so now I work at Crazy Egg. It's a different type of analytics program. It's just visual heat maps. You can run a Crazy Egg report, and you can see where people click on your page, and that turns out to be a very effective way to do conversion rate optimization on a website. Okay, and then how I got here. This is actually kind of it's kind of funny to me. Before I switched from Kissmetrics to Crazy Egg, I was about to work at a company called Be Smarty with my buddy Tim Wen, but the timing just wasn't right, and I couldn't do it. But he created the first Expedia for mortgages. You should check out that site. That's why I'm here, actually. I applied for this talk back in January. Okay, so, let me get my notes. That's probably a good idea. I got this really cool little index card note thingy with a ring in it. I think it's the way to go with these things. Okay. So yeah, when you think about if you're gonna start a B2B blog, I think one of the common assumptions is it's going to be a boring niche. You're like, yeah, who wants to talk about business to business stuff? I'd rather do BuzzFeed things or consumer driven things that we can be really creative. So it's kind of a false assumption, but there's some truth to it. Like if you're going to run an insurance company and you have to run the blog, that's kind of a tough one. But the good thing is, B2B is not hard, actually. Coming up with content is actually very easy, very straightforward. That's one of the blessings. There's always a guide that can be written, right? There's always a recipe you can write on how to accomplish a certain task, right? So coming up with content ideas isn't that hard. And throughout the years, anytime you sit your team together for an afternoon and just brainstorm, you'll come up with enough content ideas for the rest of the year. So just a matter of getting everyone to sit down and focus. And I think it'd be a good idea to do it in some hammocks, for sure. All right. So how do we do it at Kissmetrics? So a little background on Kiss again. It's a multi-touch analytics solution. It's a marketing tool. The founders happen to be really good at blogging already, so they were like, let's give this a shot, right? It makes sense. And so 5 years later, after blogging every day, we had 1 million visits a day. And so there's just two parts to how we did it, really. One, make killer infographics. We had really good designers on board, and they made great infographics that delivered a lot of value. We tried to focus on making data visualizations and not just like walls of text on a PNG. So we put a lot of energy in it. The other thing about doing great infographics 5 years ago was they would drive a lot of links to your website, so your SEO would blow up pretty easily. They're great. They were great at getting links. They're still okay at it. And then we just published one killer article a day. Just made sure there was really good value. Made sure that it was top-notch content, and we just stuck to that. I guess some companies have a hard time publishing every day, but for us it worked. Now, and that's it. And that shit doesn't work anymore. All right, so when I applied for this talk in January, it still kind of worked. Now, in September, things have changed a lot in the content marketing space. So I'm going to tell you how you can do it these days. All right, so here's a quick roadmap. You got to do some topic research. You got to engage in King of the Hill. I'll explain what that is. You got to create for a new frontier, and you got to promote. So let's get into it. All right. You got to do topic research. I put this image of this nerdy-looking cat here because it looks like he's the type of cat that would do research, even though he's really a chemist, so it's doesn't really match, but it's kind of funny. All right. So the whole idea behind topic research is pretty simple, right? You can brainstorm all day and come up with all these great ideas on what content to create, but you don't necessarily know if that content is going to bring in traffic. You're not really sure if a lot of people are searching for that stuff. It doesn't mean you shouldn't make it, but the smarter way to go about it is really to go figure out if there's demand for that content. So, to be a smart cat, what you want to do is you want to use some tools. So I don't know, how many of you are familiar with AdWords, Google AdWords? So most of you are. Google AdWords is how you basically bid on keywords to show up on the top of Google. You basically pay to play. Well, they have a little tool in their dashboard called Opportunities. And you can run reports on your keyword ideas and your keyword phrases. That's mostly like what's going to be when you come up with topics. And they'll tell you basically, they'll give you some data on like what the best search volume for those topics are. It's not exact data, but it gives you a good relative idea if it's going to be popular or not. So you can kind of sort like, oh yeah, we should go after these heavy hitters first, or maybe somewhere in the middle. Also, Google Analytics is a great tool because it'll tell you what search terms are bringing people to your site. It used to be better when they used to give you all the search terms, but they don't give you all of them anymore. They only give you search terms of people who are logged out of their Gmail account. But they still give you terms, and if you have a decent site with decent traffic, you'll see a lot of good ideas in there. Also, a complement to analytics is the Google Search Console. It used to be called Google Webmaster Tools. That's a really cool thing. You just got to verify your site. It's pretty easy. Once you verify it, it'll give you more information about what's going on, who's looking for your stuff. You're looking at your site, what kind of search terms are being used. It's just once you get in there, you'll start seeing the ideas. They'll start popping up in your head. Right. So let's say you come up with some. You're in a FinCon space or a FinTech space, and you did some research and you came up with this topic. This is actually kind of a B2C topic, but we'll go with it. And let's say I want to create a guide to budgeting. So it's a popular topic. And we want to create it in a way that people will link to it or find it useful. So just starting off really simply, we don't have big walls of text. Blogs, it's totally acceptable to have like 2-sentence paragraphs. It's just a lot of people scan these days. They don't really read everything, so they want to get the information they want quickly. Use a lot of bullets. Use good visuals. Break up your content with visuals. Link to reputable sources. It's actually very underutilized, and there's a good reason for it. Well, it makes your content look well-researched, but it also is a good SEO play because you're showing Google that you're linking out of your content. You're not being stingy with linking, and it also creates relevancy to your content, so they understand where your content belongs when someone else performs a search that will end up on your page. And obviously promote it on your social media channels and email. And like, for example, on Twitter, I'm a big Twitter fan. You can retweet content over and over again. That's totally acceptable. And the more you do that, the higher likely people are going to link to it, and it stays fresh and relevant. That's actually one of the keys these days, is you want to keep your content fresh. Don't always think about publishing something and then forgetting about it. We'll get into that in a second. So I put on my design hat and tried to make a good-looking blog post, but this is what I came up with. So we'll say the beginner's guide to budgeting, and the way I'm kind of opening up the topic here by asking questions. I want to reel the reader in. Do you want to be able to go on vacation? Do you want to have a comfortable retirement? Do you want to stay out of debt? Nothing solves that continual financial anxiety faster than budgeting. So we're getting into like psychology here. We're getting them hooked. And the best part, it's not hard. It's actually an easy thing to do. So the idea is, lots of space, lots of white space, easy to read. It reels you in. That's kind of what you want to do. So, and then another thing I thought at the last minute. something with a post like this, maybe if you were in the fintech space and you provide a budgeting tool, maybe that's your software. Write your content so it makes them get out their calculator and they start using your tool, right? Pull them in, right? Get them to start using it. Maybe link to a Google Docs spreadsheet or something. Make your content a tool. That actually makes it worth linking to. So, sorry guys, I'm juggling a lot of stuff here. Okay, so part 2, time for King of the Hill. I shot this picture on top of my friend's apartment building in downtown LA. It was a beautiful day. It was actually kind of raining. It was kind of weird, kind of muggy too. So here, that's a good way to get free images without paying for stock photography. Just take your own photos. So King of the Hill, it's called skyscraper content. And what you want to do is, so when you're researching topics and you're coming up with ideas, you're going to notice that people are probably already out competing you for these topics. And that's really the hard part. So your job is to outrank them. And the way you do that is you make skyscraper content, which means make bigger and better content. So take what's out there and make it better and make it a better resource, right? Also, always come back to it and update it as needed. Don't just forget about it, because that content's going to stay in the search engines in the first position for as long as it's worthy. And you'll find that these type of articles that have a lot of traffic and stay at the top will bring in most of the traffic to your site. Now, the next thing you need to do, after you've made better content, you got to go ask people to link to it. And there's a great tool called Ahrefs, Ahrefs. And it's an SEO tool that will tell you who's linking to your competitors' content. So what you do is you go do some outreach and you ask those people that are linking to your competitors' content to link to you, because chances are it would make sense. It's like, well, you're linking to them. We have a great resource. Why don't you link to us? And you play that game, and that's how you kind of move up the search engines. So let's do a little quick example. So there's another part to this, which is a little on-page SEO lesson. It's very simple, but it's something you need to be aware of, because even if you're doing link building, you got to know how to optimize your on-page. So here's an article we did on Crazy Egg last week. It's called How to Optimize for Voice Search in Siri. And I want you to know this thing right here, this title tag. I don't know if people are familiar with this, but if you view the source on any web page, like on a PC, it's Control-U. On Mac, you usually have to right-click View Source. You'll see this thing called a title tag at the top of the page. Google uses that to figure out what your page is about. And generally, most blogging software will stick your title in the title tag, so you don't have to worry about it. But you want to be conscious about all those keywords you did research for. Are they in the title tag? Just do that sanity check. Make sure they're there. That's how you're going to rank for it. The next thing, this is really all you need to know. You have this thing called H1 tag. It's not a huge deal, but it's kind of a big deal. Just make sure you have one H1 tag per page. I see a lot of websites that have multiple H1s. The H1 is just the main page heading. That thing at the top. So Google also looks at that. Generally, those match. It makes sense. They don't have to. It's actually sometimes better not to match them. All right, so now you're an on-page SEO expert. You got that dialed. You're good at doing link outreach, and you're probably getting a lot of traffic. Let's just talk real quick about the links. So the way Google works, when a lot of other web pages link to your content, they're just votes, and they're saying this content's popular, therefore this content should be at the top of the pile. You don't want to artificially do this. You want to do this as organically as possible. So generally, by making good content, you'll organically rank. Also, telling people like, "Hey, would you like to link to our content?" It's valuable, and if people decide to do it, then it's still organic, and that's the name of the game, right? The bigger variety of sites that link to you, the better. The more authoritative, the better. Say like New York Times decides to link to your content. That's one of the best links you could get. Okay, so part 3. So now there's a lot of copycat going on. A lot of the stuff you'll read on the internet is about copying and doing what your competitors are doing, and that's great, and it kind of works. It's a lot of work, though. One of the best things to do is just to create what needs to be created. So in your space, there's probably stuff people aren't talking about or haven't been talked about yet. Make sure you're creating that stuff. That's how you start. That's kind of like how you get pole position number 1 before everyone else. So I say mix it up. Do some copying, do some, frontier content. All right. So, promotion. This is probably my favorite quote as a marketer ever, because I come from like a nerd background, and I don't like to do promotion. I like to just do the technical work. So I'm usually bad at this part. But this is really important. As a matter of fact, in any business, you should spend like 95% of your time on promotion. Right? It's not that's what is important at the end of the day. So now this doesn't mean just like tweeting stuff out or posting to Facebook. That is a form of promotion, but you really want to think in terms of getting press. You want to think about what makes what you're doing newsworthy. And then you want to use your tools at your disposal to go make sure that you can get big-time press. Because big press means big publications linked to you. And that boosts everything up, especially from SEO and from a blogging perspective, and for your whole business. So that's kind of like the overarching strategy, is just make sure you know what you're doing. So if you need to get a PR firm, definitely do it. There's a great tool I like called Help a Reporter Out. At Be Smarty, we use this, and it was amazing. Not only did we met a great reporter or writer that was in the fintech space. She ended up blogging for Be Smarty and also plugging us every time she wrote an article in another publication. So it was a great way to make a relationship. This is a very underutilized resource. All right, I think I'm at the end of my... All right, and then I'm just going to end with a couple things, some basics. There is a misconception out there that, especially people who just want to convert off their blog, they think that they publish something, they'll get traffic, and they'll make money, or they'll get a conversion. And it doesn't really work that way. Definitely think about it as branding and building trust and marketing touches. People, when they come to your blog for the first time, 10 minutes? Okay, I'm going to end pretty early here. You want to start a good relationship with a person. You're like, oh, wow. You want them to go, I really like what these guys have to say. I really trust them. They're giving me really good free information. They're not trying to sell me anything. I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to come back again. I'm going to bookmark this content. And it's just kind of like a top of the level way to think about this. It's not, don't try to always sell off your blog. It's fine to have a couple of calls to action. Maybe have them subscribe, or maybe have them try your tool. But you kind of want to work softly on your blog. You don't want to be, everything shouldn't be a promotional piece. And ultimately, you want to provide value. Like, meditate on the word value. Like, is this post worthy to bookmark? Is it delivering value, or is it just kind of like, are we just covering like a story real quick and just writing a blurb about it, right? Or are you actually helping someone?